rubbing them. That's today. We're gonna crochet, and I want to do like, I just dropped it. I want to do like 30 minutes of crocheting because I'm working on a project I finished. I don't think I ever, this project, I was working on this project around Christmas time for my sister, and I finished it. I made it for her. She got it for Christmas, and it was very cool. However, I realized that I really liked it as well, and now I want one. So I'm going to make myself one. And today I'm going to kind of work on that project while we just like sit and talk and chat. I don't know, I might adjust this. Why is it so high? Maybe this is a little bit better. Then you can see crocheting. So this is what I have so far. Started a little bit ago, and I'm going to do mine as a mixture of things. I'm going to rotate because I had, and actually this is the, so see, this is actually the yarn that I got for my daughter. I also finished her scarf for Christmas too, and I had said in like that last video, the shopping video, that it was looking redder in the store than it actually on camera than it actually was. And this is what I mean, like it's actually a darker, it's looking a little bit darker here. I'll see what it's like after I upload the video, but it's like a darker kind of a purple. So then with these two together, it's kind of like a peanut butter and jelly sort of thing. And while I crochet, I thought, you know, it's the new year. So, and actually it's kind of weird. We're going off tangent, but it is the new year here in America. But we do plan on moving to Korea. What's interesting about that is their new year is, I think it's February 17th. So we will have 2 New Years, like celebrate, like 2 different places, 2 different countries. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of like a fun thing. But I don't really do like New Year resolutions. Like, I guess the standard way, like I'll hear people talk about them and they'll be like, oh, my New Year's resolution is, you know, to XYZ. And I don't necessarily have New Year resolutions because like for me, I think because like I enjoy the New Year, but for me it's like it's still winter time. So for like my body clock, for myself, it still feels like a cozy, like break kind of a time for my psyche. I'm still like mulling things over. And then in the springtime, you know, that's like the time for like, so like the first day of spring, that's like the time for like new beginnings and things like that. So it's like, I still feel like right now I'm still in my like just hibernating phase, but I do have different goals that like I just have every year, or like I shouldn't even say every year, just all the time. And those kinds of things are like, first off, you know, I try to be happy, not in the sense of like I've been trying in recent, I would say probably for like the past 2 years of redefining what I consider to be like be happy. And for me, when I say that, I mean like there's always going to be, you know, those trials and tribulations in life. There's always going to be like difficult times. But like those times are like, that's just a part of life too. Like if you want to, you know, live life, you have to kind of just accept the fact that there's going to be suffering, you know what I mean? In some way or another, in your life and in the lives of others. So how do you approach those kinds of moments? And so just having like a base sense of like, oh yeah, this is difficult, but like I'm happy that like you have to be alive in order to have those kind of difficult moments. So I can be grateful for that and happy for that. Oh, hold on. And we're back. But yeah, so I can be grateful for that and I can be happy for that. And I can take those moments that might be a struggle or might be difficult and just kind of accept them. And, you know, like, oh, this is happening. This is a whatever moment. But it must be necessary for like the journey of my life. You know what I mean? Like it just must be a necessary moment. And just because something feels negative in the moment doesn't mean that it is negative forever. Like you hear about that all the time where people like, oh, I was going through this really hard time, but then it made me realize this. And I think maybe humans are just the type of people where we sometimes just have to learn things the hard way. And maybe that's part of the reason why we go through just like difficult times or hard times. And empathy it's not a skill that we are born with. It is something that we learn along the way. And maybe those moments help us just become more empathetic people. So I try just in my everyday life, and so I guess you could always say it's a bit of like a goal for the year, is to have that mindset with anything that I'm doing. Just this mindset of like, okay, like this must just be necessary for the path that I'm on right now. And we're always where we're supposed to be. So if this is like difficult, this must be because I needed to like learn some sort of lesson, or I needed for some reason to experience this. And maybe I don't understand why in this moment, but later I might, or later I might be able to use this for like some good. Like just because you're going through a bad moment, at least for myself, I try to think like, okay, well, how can I use this to bring like still some like good into the world, if that makes sense. So that's something that I kind of try to do. And then another thing, like a goal that I like have, like again, it's just like it's a goal that I have for like I've been having, and I'll just continue to work on it in 2026, and that is my Korean. And I have been really, really trying to hammer that down. I feel like I have been getting better at like listening and things like that. Something I've really been working on lately is shadow practice. So I've been just watching native Koreans like speak, whether it's on, usually I try to do it with, I don't know. First I try to look up some like YouTube videos with people shadowing, or like the video was meant for like shadow practice. But I felt like they were talking way too much English. Like I don't want like a whole life story kind of a thing. I just want you to speak in Korean, and then I want to mimic that. And so I was having a hard time finding like what I considered, but for some other people, like, I saw the comments below and other people really liked these, like the videos that I had found. So like for other people it was working, but for like me, it was just not working. And then I tried to watch some just like interviews of like Korean singers or actors, and well, actresses I should technically say, to see if I could like mimic that. But they talk so fast, and I'm not quite that great yet, like where I can pick up everything so quickly. So then I thought to myself, well, maybe I should do like a K-drama, because it's more like they're talking Korean the whole time, but they're talking slower than they normally would in like everyday life. Like if you look at the speeds of like a K-drama versus a variety show or a podcast or something like that, like a lot of times they're talking slower, because we do that with acting all the time. You talk a little bit slower so that way everything's caught on camera and all that sort of jazz. So I did that, and that seems to be working pretty well. So I'm rewatching Hotel del Luna. Love that K-drama. If you have not seen it, it's on Netflix, so check it out. Stars IU, and I really, really like her as an actress, but also as a singer. She has a beautiful voice, so 10 out of 10 would recommend. And the storyline for Hotel del Luna is so good. I won't give away too much just because, what if you've never seen it before? I won't give spoilers. But were there episodes that made me cry? Of course. Of course. This is a K-drama. Like, I'm not made of stone. I'm not a rock. But so I have been doing that. And just a little like side note caveat thing that I was like kind of weird. But like for that, I don't know if this is the same way for like all the K-dramas on there, but for that K-drama, so they have obviously the original Korean audio on Netflix. But then I went to do subtitles because I was like, oh, it'd be nice to have the Korean subtitles below, so that way when I'm trying to, like sometimes when you're shadowing somebody, it's like you think you heard something, but then when you see it written out, you realize like, oh, that's not how that was actually said. Like I heard that wrong. So I was like, oh, I should have the Korean subtitles on there so I can be checking to make sure that I'm hearing what I think I'm hearing. And there was no Korean subtitles. It was not one of the languages for subtitles, which I thought was like really weird because it's like I know that the show is in Korean, but it's like I watch American shows in English all the time. I with subtitles. I love subtitles. I wish that when I went to the movie theaters, they had options where you could watch the movies in subtitles. Like I just love subtitles. I don't know. Like I don't know if I just got really used to reading things on the bottom with all the anime and stuff I watch. But now even with English shows, like I'll be watching English shows and I'm like, what? What did they say? And I have to put the subtitles on. Like it just, and you know what it is? It's because they always make the music. Like I know I sound like such an old lady right now with my rose printed little blouse and my crocheting and complaining about, you know, movies these days. But movies these days make their music soundtracks so loud and they're like speaking soundtracks so soft. And I cannot hear anything except for the blaring of the background beats. And so I have to have the subtitles on. And I think it is ridiculous they do not have Korean subtitles because there are definitely Korean Americans or Koreans just like here on vacation wanting to watch their Netflix and definitely wanting their Korean subtitles, and they are just having nothing, and that's just a shock to me. Shocking, I tell you. And also, I too want those subtitles, so I was a little bit bummed about that, but otherwise, I think that shadow practice was going really well. I've also been practicing, like, trying to just be more vocal out loud because I'm really bad at practicing my Korean out loud in like sentence structure, like really trying to say things. And since, you know, it is, as of this video, it is January 13th or 14th. I think it's the 14th. It's January 14th. And we will, leave the country to go live in Korea on February 8th. So that's not like a ton of time. And I do want to be able to feel a little bit more confident in my skills. I want to be able to, kind of get around. And I also just want to feel like a little, because I think that the thing that's going to have to, that's what's going to help me to become more fluent, is I'm just going to have to really just talk to everybody. I'm just going to have to try to use my Korean as much as possible and like not care that it's not great. And, it's kind of embarrassing when you like know that what you're saying isn't correct, but it's like you can't get better if you're not just out there doing it all the time. And so I'm trying to speak out loud more often now, to kind of just emotionally and mentally prepare myself to just really go get it once we're in Korea, and just not just be trying to like use my Korean like when I'm in class with a Korean teacher or something, like with my Korean teacher, like out in the public. So I really, every day I'm trying to just be more comfortable just speaking out loud. And then once we're actually in Korea, I just want to keep that like energy and like remember that we all have to start somewhere. And I may say it wrong and I may sound ridiculous, but eventually it will get better. I mean, if you practice something and you're diligent with something like this, like with language learning sort of thing, there's no way that you're not going to improve ever. And so I will start to improve. And I think that is the easiest and quickest way to improve, is just to get out there with it. So that is something else that within 2026 I hope to get better about. And I hope to be able to showcase that in like videos a bit more of my progress. Right now I'm really good at like I know vocabulary kind of stuff. I'm getting better about kind of putting it into sentences. And I'm getting better with like my Korean grammar, because there are things like when you're putting a word into a sentence, for instance, like they have these markers kind of like at the end, and those markers change whether whether the word ends in a vowel or consonant. So if you said like America, 미국, but you're trying to use it in a sentence, I am American, then you would say like 저는 미국에 Saram himida. I am an American person. And so you see you added that little thing at the end. That's really hard for me to remember, and probably for anybody else learning this language for the first time. But I am getting like, I'm becoming more aware of that, and it's helping me when I'm doing like my listening practice. Um, I am a better listener than like speaker, because since I have been working on vocabulary, I'm starting to be able to hear the root word, um, regardless of like what the ending is. And that used to really kind of throw me off, because I was just like, if the word for, you know, I'm trying to think of a word, like, why am I just totally blanking on a word to say here? Oh, if a word for cat is koangi, then it's just koangi. But like, that's not true. Like, once you're putting it in a sentence, the ending kind of changes in sound. Like you add like a little additional kind of sound there, and that used to really, really throw me off. And I would just think it was a completely different word, and it's not. It's still cat. And so I feel like I am getting better with that. And you gotta celebrate the small victories in life. That's definitely one of my small victories. And so that's going really well. And recently my sister decided that she was going to start learning Korean too, so that she could like talk with me and things like that. And then she wants to come visit when we're in Korea. And so then she could feel a little bit more comfortable and maybe not feel as much of a culture shock. And some of the words might sound similar and things like that. So hopefully I'll start to have like a bit of a language partner. So that will be really nice. So yeah, I really do want to just kind of keep focusing on learning Korean, and not just the language, but also more about the culture. Because I thought about this the other day, and I think Korean's really interesting, because I think for a lot of cultures, like the language is a part of the culture. But I think like in Korea, it kind of feels like the culture is a part of the language. And so the more you understand about Korean culture, the more different things within the language start to make sense, like why certain things are structured the way they are, or why they say things that they say. Why do you ask, like, have you eaten, like, as a greeting? All has to do with like their history. So I want to continue to learn more about the Korean history, and I want to continue to be better at reading Korean. And so I did recently get like a book on short Korean stories, like at like a like a kid kind of story. So it's at like a less difficult reading level. And so I'm going to start practicing with that. And I've been trying to kind of get like the goal each day, and I don't reach it each day at all. But I try to practice 4 hours a day. And I have like a little schedule and stuff blocked off. Actually, I could probably show that. I'll set the crocheting down for a second, and I'll show, so like what my schedule, how I broke it down. So this is study schedule. I should decorate this page more. Study schedule, 28 days, because when I first wrote this, I had 20 days left. So I've just kind of started this particular study schedule recently. And so I broke it down into like listening, speaking, grammar, vocabulary, and fluency as like my 4 things that I'm working on. And so for listening, I have each day I try to listen to 20 minutes of slow, clear Korean. So that's usually like, I'll Google like a YouTube video or something like that, where it'll be like beginning Korean cafe story or something like that. And then for 20 minutes, I just try to like listen to it slowly, try to see if I can pick up words, try to really be active in my listening. Then 20 minutes of like real life speed. And so then for that, I'm usually listening to a podcast or something. Like, I prefer like a podcast or like an interview kind of a thing. But podcasts, I really have been getting into lately. I've been watching, what's it called? Dachiwa. Suga from BTS, he had like a little podcast series where he'd interview people, and I find like I like that. Like that has like pretty good pacing, and so that's kind of nice. And then again, trying to like listen to that, and then 20 minutes of active listening with like the shadow repeat. So it's like repeating something and I repeat it back, and so that's usually like I try to find like a phrases video or something like that, and then I just repeat back the phrases or the words or whatever it is. Then for speaking, I have the 20 minutes of shadowing a native speaker. So I've been really following like IU lately and doing like a lot of, like I said, like I'm watching her K drama right now. She says something, I try to repeat back. But then with like that shadow speaking, I'm not just trying to say it back, but like really shadowing. So however her hand gestures are, I try to do that. However, like her, like, if she says it, like, you know, like how her breathing pattern goes. Like if she says, Hashima, and I try to go, Hachima. She's never said it like that. I don't think that was a great example of how she would say it. I just kind of threw something out there. But my point is I try to follow her, like, exactly, so I can start getting, like, the pacing of Korean better. Because something else that I've noticed while I'm practicing is they, like, their cadence and how they say things and how they pause, like native speakers and things like that. It's not the same way that I would say things when I'm just speaking English. Like, there's a different vibe to it, is the best I can say. And so, like, if I try to say a sentence, the way that I would hear it in, like, the way that I would say it. So, like, right now I'm practicing this right now. So if I try to say, today I woke up, then I would just be like, today I woke up. You know what I mean? Today I woke up. But it's, like, hard to have that same type of vibe and, like, 오늘은 나는 이름이시다. Alright, not 낫다. 오늘은 나는 일이었다. Today I woke up. But it's, like, hard to say it in that same, today I woke up. 오늘은 나는 일이었다. It doesn't, like, sound like how things go. It doesn't, like, really kind of, like, sound the exact same. And so it's like I want to be able to say it in the same kind of vibe and cadence that, like, a native speaker would say it, so it doesn't sound awkward. Then 20 minutes self-talk. That's actually kind of what I just pulled out, is, like, I'd written, like, a conversation that I could, like, say, and then I've been practicing that and just the same conversation all week, and then, like, next week I'll switch to, like, a different one and, you know, try to improve on it and blah blah blah. And then 20 minutes conversation, like, language speaking drills and tutor. I don't really have a tutor, and so I've just been kind of using my, like, Seoul app, and then I try to spend, like, 20 minutes with their, like, little, like, AI thing where I try to have, like, a conversation with AI. And then under my grammar and vocabulary, I have 30 minutes learn and review grammar, and I have been using my Korean Made Simple book. Gotten actually pretty far in it. This is actually where I'm at. This is where, like, the answer key is when I have to, like, check my work. I've gotten pretty far in it, which I'm pretty proud of. Like, obviously that didn't happen within, like, this last week, but just in life in general, I've been working on it. And I think it's a pretty good workbook. I like it, and I use that to practice a lot. I have another book that I have. When this one's done, I'll maybe try that one. But this one I really, really like. So I might even just get his second one when I finish it. And then 15 minutes targeted vocab. And so with that, like, I have an Anki deck, and I just spend, you know, 15 minutes learning vocabulary, like just doing flashcards. That's, I don't know, best way I know how to do it. Then 15 minutes practice sentences. I use that Korean Made Simple book for that because there's sentences in there, and I just go over the sentences that I'd learned that day, or, like, go over past sentences that are in the workbook. And then 15 minutes, oh yeah, like, using whatever vocabulary I, like, use. So that's also in there. Like, any vocabulary that I used, I try to put that into a sentence. So I do something like that during that 15 minutes. And then for fluency, I do that for 12, each category that I have that for 12 minutes each. So I have, like, 12 minutes time speaking, where I just set the clock for 12 minutes and I just try to speak for 12 minutes. It's painful, like, for anyone to actually hear that. Like, it does not sound good, but I'm hoping over time that you practice it every day, it starts to get better. The read aloud of Korean text, I haven't done that really yet because I just got that book and it's supposed to come in the mail today, so I'll start doing that. Writing short paragraphs, I've been kind of slacky on that, so I'm gonna try to be better about that because I am a terrible speller in Korean. I'm getting really better at, like, reading it when I see it, but honestly, learning how to write it would make things, or, like, I shouldn't say learning to write it because I do know how to write, but just, like, practicing how to write it more would make certain words stick into my head better, and also I think it would make me a better reader. So I really want to work on that. Doing different, like, role plays, and so then with that, I'm probably just going to keep using, like, the Seoul app. for the like role plays, and then listening and summarizing. And so that I usually just pull up a YouTube video. I try to listen to what they say, and then I try to summarize what I think happened, and then I see what they're actually really saying. So that's kind of how I've been like trying to break up the 4 hours and try to get that. And then again, you know, I have not, it's not like, I don't think there's been a day so far. I think the farthest I've gotten is 3 hours. I think I practiced one day I got 3 hours of practice in, which I still think is pretty good. I think the shortest amount that I've practiced has been like an hour and 40 minutes. And even then throughout the day when I'm not like doing an active practice like that, I still try to like have like Korean in the background. So, you know, I try to at least still be listening to like music or podcasts or, you know, something like that, shows, so that at least it's in the background and I'm like at least hearing it a bit or something like that. But yeah, I am trying really, really hard with the Korean. So I'm going to continue with that. My other goals are kind of more, you know, again, kind of like creative. I want to be crocheting more often and doing more like sewing projects and things like that. I kind of want to learn how to do needle felt. I think that would be fun. I think it's good to challenge yourself and try new fun and exciting things. For my birthday last year, my husband got me this dope Lego set that I've been saving for when we go to Korea, and I'm going to try to put that together. Looks like little orchids, if I remember correctly. Everything else is just kind of about preparing for like the move and just kind of be open just in general in life to new experiences and things like that. You know, I really am looking forward to the move. I feel like I've been working really hard, and I will do kind of a video about like what it was like to try to get everything in order for a family of 5 to move to Korea, South Korea. I mean, it's just kind of like a little bit crazy, and it has been a little bit crazy. But throughout like this past year, a lot of just kind of the goals I were having last year was just about getting things in order for that, getting resumes together, and then once I'd gotten like the job, getting the documents together needed for visas, getting everybody else's documents together is ready for visas. And that process is actually, you know, it's time consuming. It takes some time. And so we actually have only now, which is like kind of crazy because we're like, it's so close. Like I got my teaching job in, when did I officially, I was offered the job in, it was September or October. End of September or early October, I was offered the job. And then I accepted the job in October, like after we talked about it and gone through some things and whatnot. So then after I accepted the job, then like that was go time. Like we had to go get everything ready, and like I had to get my visa in order first. And I will go into like this with more detail. Like this should be a whole nother different video. But I had to get my visa in order first, since I was the one who had like the job and was working, in order to get my family's visas, because they are coming as my dependents. And so because of that, like you had like the time issue, because like mine had to get sorted out first, and then I could go and do theirs. And so we are only now just officially getting the family's visas. So they have been approved and all that jazz. And so, you know, we're January, like I said, it's like January 14th. So they have been approved and everything. And they're like, you know, coming in the mail, because you have to like send your stuff again. It's a whole other thing, but it's like coming in the mail. But yeah, we were really like at the wire, because like I said, we leave February. I mean, we were hoping that we, like I said, we kind of had a goal of like when certain things had to be in to make sure that we had everything good to go before February came, and luckily, you know, we hit all those goals. But yeah, that in itself is a whole other video. So I'm kind of like looking forward to, like, right now I'm just looking forward to, like, to me, this is like chill time. Like I got everything that I needed to get in order for all the paperwork and things like that. I got everything that I needed to get in order for plane tickets. I got everything that I need to get in order for housing. Like I did all of these very grown-up-y type things, and now I am just ready to just kind of chill and enjoy the winter until spring comes. And so I just kind of want to be like cozy and reset myself. And I feel like it's funny because the new year starts in January, but to me, I'm like, it's still like a cozy reset yourself stuff. So I'm just kind of trying to focus on goals that I'd already had, or like dreams that I already had, and then just, just kind of being like really cozy. Again, I am also, I've mentioned in a video before, like I try to, work out in the sense of, I like the idea of like challenging myself and getting like stronger mentally and physically. I don't really care about the other stuff. I try not to care about the other stuff. It's hard not to care about the other stuff, but I really actively try not to care about that sort of thing. I don't think it's really healthy to care about like body size specifically too much. Um, I just try to just talk nicely to myself all the time and be really happy and content, because I realized that was like another revelations I've had within the past 2 years is I don't think there has been a time in my life where I have been like really satisfied with the way my body looked. Like I always thought, I think it's like a product of growing up in the time period that I grew up, like I just saw my Taki run. First off, like the world has never been super kind, I would say, to women when it comes to body images. Um, but I am telling you this for free. Growing up in the early 2000s and 90s, not a great time for what we considered fat for like women. I mean, the guidelines were very strict. I love seeing it nowadays. You see a lot of just like, I guess, like the fat positivity movement and things like that coming out. That was not a thing when I was growing up. That's not a thing from the 90s. That's not a thing from the early 2000s. I can distinctly remember, this just throws me just wild because it shows you how, like, inundated you become with the things that you like consume and media wise and things like that at the time. Because I can remember certain people being called like crazy fat during like the early 2000s, and me as like a small, I'm middle school, high school, teenage girl, believing these things because it's whatever was like. I remember like, and grown-ups that I knew also saying these things like, oh, so and so's getting really fat. That celebrity is getting like, could you believe how they came to the MTVs? Like, that was ridiculous. And so of course, if these people are considered fat, then I must be fat. You have that logic and that mentality at that age, 100%. And it's hard to like get away with that. And so when I was in high school, I was very thin. I did not crack 100 pounds until maybe my senior year. I think actually, yeah, my senior year, I remember getting to be like 100. I was finding like 100, and I think by the end of my senior year, I was like 105 or maybe getting close. And I remember thinking like that was so fat. Like I couldn't believe I'd gone over 100 pounds. Like, oh my goodness, like craziness. And I was like a runner, and so I was like, I wasn't a great in cross country or anything like that, but I did cross country and track and like cheerleading and stuff like that. And so even if you're not great, I was pretty good at track. But even though I'm not great at cross country, you're still running all the time. And so you're like, I still do the same workout everybody else was doing. Like, we're all tiny. Um, but I remember not feeling like I was tiny, feeling like I was very, very, I did not feel comfortable. I always felt like there was improvement in my body to be made. Um, I remember not liking that like my thighs kind of touched at the top. Like I saw that there were other girls who they had, that thigh gap, and that's what I wanted. Which is like crazy again to think of. I'm 5'3" current, and so at that time I was about like 5 foot 5'3" by the end of high school. So to like think that like 105 pounds is like fat is insane. When I see pictures of myself at that time period, obviously I am not fat. I am very, very, very skinny. It's wild to me that I thought that way about myself. And so there's never, and then, once I got to college, I gained like weight, and like I couldn't believe it. I wasn't running around all the time. I was probably just starting to look normal, but I was like, oh my God, I'm so fat. So throughout my college years, I thought I was like huge. I thought I was huge for my wedding. I was not. I thought I was huge after I gave birth to my daughter. I was not. That's actually probably physically the most healthy I'd actually been. I was like around, um, like I was doing like just like workouts, and I was getting like really, really strong. But I remember at that time period, and I look like when I see pictures like that, I'm like, you were so beautiful. Why didn't you think you were beautiful? And I remember seeing pictures of myself around that time, like now, and I can like I'm like, you're so healthy. Like, what? Why were you complaining? But I do remember looking in the mirror at that time and being upset with how I looked. I was mad that I was still technically like I was like 145 at that time. And I was like, oh, that's just too big. Like I didn't want to be 145. Like again, I was just looking at that number. I could pinch the sides and feel like skin there. So I was like, that's unacceptable kind of a thing. And it's like, it was not. Like I feel like I should post some. I wish I knew. I have a goal to learn for future body positive video. I will learn how to post pictures in a video because it was not fat. And then after each kid I went through that, my son, like, oh, I've gotten so fat. And what was ironic, what was the game changer was actually having my third daughter. Because during that time period, I was incredibly sick. And I could not move. I had HG. I was throwing up at least 50 times a day. I actually lost weight while pregnant. I lost a little over 20 pounds while I was pregnant. It took me to the very end of my pregnancy to just gain that weight back. I didn't gain back the weight that I had lost during my pregnancy until I was 8, almost 9 months pregnant. I couldn't move around. I was like in bed like all the time because I was just throwing up all the time. I was miserable, and it lasted my entire pregnancy. And then and I was so sick. And then after I had my daughter, like the labor was, I almost died, literally. I had internal bleeding. It was very, very rough. The recovery after my daughter's birth was incredibly rough. It really messed with me psychologically. I did not understand what a healthy body felt like anymore, because I'd been so sick and having to just kind of power through, like to like live life. Like anything felt better than what I felt while I was pregnant. I had incredibly high blood pressure because I was like so anxious. I was having nightmares of just the pregnancy and the labor. It was very, very scary for me because during that time period, I always felt like something bad was going to happen to the baby. So I became very obsessed with just watching my daughter while she was like sleeping even. I would go days without sleep. It was just insane. I was just not like in a healthy mindset. And it was during that, like, it's kind of like because I was throwing up that much, it almost like taught my body, like, oh, you've put food in your stomach, you should throw that back up. Oh, that smells like food, you should throw that back up. Because I was throwing up so much during my pregnancy and I was having such a hard time keeping food down, that even after the baby was born, it was still kind of difficult for me to eat and not feel sick after eating, and not feel, it was almost like an automatic trigger for my body. And so, but like my body also wanted food. I had been starving essentially, like it felt like, because all the nutrients I was getting, I was just giving to the baby. Like, luckily our daughter was born very healthy. It was a miracle. But it was very psychologically and physically damaging. I cannot stress that enough. And having to like go through that, then my body actually like gained a lot of weight. Like I became like the heaviest I've ever been, like kind of in like my life. I think at like by the time, like 2 years after my daughter's born, I was probably, I think I was like almost 200 pounds. I was like 198 pounds, which again, like this is not like a weight thing. It's not like the thing. It was just like the idea of gaining that much at first was kind of like shocking to me. But like what was really shocking to me, and what I think was like the game changer for me, is it finally gotten to the point where like seeing the number on the scale didn't bother me. It wasn't being 198 pounds that bothered me. It wasn't being almost 200 pounds that bothered me. What bothered me was that I was having difficulty moving. like ever since I had my daughter, like I said, I was like kind of bedridden for like 9 months. I was not walking around. Like for my other pregnancies, I was very, physical, and like I did things, and I was not able to do that with my daughter's pregnancy at all. So that when she was born and I first started, just walking was difficult. Like going for a walk was difficult. Biking was difficult. Lifting things was difficult. Like I remember the first time I tried to lift like our dog's water container that fits like a few gallons in there. That I mean, I used to be able to just like lift. I couldn't. I had to fill it up halfway. I literally physically could not lift it up. Like my arm strength had just gone. My leg strength had just gone. It was hard picking up my kids. Like that. It just physically like wrecked me. And I was like, remembering like I used to bike miles, I used to walk miles, I used to go hiking, I used to run, I used to swim. Like swimming was exhausting. Like everything was exhausting, physically exhausting. And I was like, this is the real thing that sucks. Like that was actually kind of like, and that was actually kind of scary, just to like feel like not in control of like my body. And that's when I decided like, okay, I'm gonna start like working out again, but like my focus is just being able to like do things, because this is insane that I'm like starting to not, I'm, 30. At that point I was 30. I'm 35 now, so it's 2 years ago. 33. And I was like, I'm 33 years old and I'm struggling to feel like walk. And again, like I wasn't like super super big or anything like that. Like the weight I was at, that's not huge or anything like that. So it wasn't like, I wish I had like a picture of that. It wasn't like I was like I know like sometimes if you've gained like a lot of weight, then it can be like difficult to move. But it wasn't even just that. It was like I had no muscle anymore. I had no endurance anymore. I had no anything anymore, because I had been so physically unable to like really be active. And so like that is what scared me. And so then I was like, I want to become more active. And then, it's kind of one of those things, as you become more active naturally, like your body will change just because you're being more active and you're adding more muscle. And so at this point, like I have lost a lot of weight within these like 2 years, but it wasn't like my goal. And I think that that was important, an important change in mentality for myself, and something that I want to continue into this year. It wasn't like my goal necessarily to hit, like I don't have like a goal weight or anything like that. It was just I wanted to feel healthy in my body again. I wanted to feel kind of in control of my body again. I didn't want to feel so powerless in my body anymore. And I also wanted to be like really thankful for my body, because during that time period I felt like I was really harsh on my body. And like really my body has done such great things and has carried me through since so many magical moments. And the fact that like my body carried me through that pregnancy and that labor, and that recovery is amazing. My body when I was in high school was amazing. Like my body has always been amazing and has always been, there for me, trucking along. And I just want to like appreciate that more and take better care of myself. And whatever, I want to be in the mentality of whatever my body looks like when I'm being mentally healthy, and when I'm being like physically healthy in the sense of just like taking care of me, then that's just what my body looks like, and that's like a beautiful thing. And I want to be appreciative of that. So that is kind of another goal that I hope to carry into this next year, of just being that kind of appreciative. And I hope that I don't want to keep looking at, and I feel like I've gotten like better, like with my self-talk. I look in the mirror, I'm like, ah, dang girl, you're doing it, killing the game, always been great. Because again, I think it's wild that I see pictures of myself at different stages of my life, and I can remember how harsh I was on myself and all the horrible things that I just said to myself. And I do not want to be like that anymore. And I don't want my, children to be like that. And I really don't want anyone to be like that. I mean, it's just, the world is harsh enough. Why are we being so harsh on ourselves? And again, I told this kind of story from like, I talked about like the pressure on women and things like that. I've told this story in that perspective, but I also, acknowledge that, it's no picnic being a man either, and the standards that they have and that can be put upon themselves, especially depending on what kind of world you're in. So for instance, my husband was a wrestler, and the wrestling world and like having to maintain weight and things like that is also incredibly harsh. And if you happen to know a wrestler, I am sure that they will tell you stories of what it was like to like cut weight and maintain a weight during the season, and the type of psychological and just kind of disorders that that can create if you're not doing it healthy, or depending on, you know, again, like what your coach is like and all kinds of stuff. And you can really, like, I like the sport of wrestling. I love the athleticism of it. Um, but depending on, especially in like the high school and like middle school and stuff like level, depending on who you have around you as far as adults go, it can be just like with any other sport. It can be really damaging if you have people in your life who are creating that trauma, you know, during that time period. And I'm sure there are people who, I mean, I know there are people who have gone through that, and I've watched that, you know, I've watched that even when I was a kid, just kind of how influential an adult can be in somebody's life. And to me, I feel like I realize how influential I can be to the lives of like others and like just people who are younger than me, and especially in that adolescent age. But I often wonder if that's not something that people are aware of, because again, I can remember, like, if you go and you like Google Britney Spears MTV, I think it was her MTV appearance, and it was kind of like right after she'd done her divorce and things like that, and it's that like kind of iconic, like, it's Britney bitch kind of thing goes off, and she was in like that black thing, and I think her music video, she was at like a strip club or something like that, and I can't remember exactly what the song was called, but I remember like it was during that era, and she comes onto the stage and she looks great. If you go watch that performance, she looks great. She is very athletic. Is she a size 0 in that clip? No, probably not. But was she the fattest thing that had ever walked the planet? According to 2000, I don't know if this was like 2000, probably 2007, 2006. According to the adults during that time period, she was. Because I can remember going to school, and I was a cheerleader at that time, and I can remember one of the adults, I came from a really small town, so I'm not gonna like, just in case a small town person ever like exists, I'm not trying to like out anybody's life or anything, but I can remember an adult after school discussing that performance while us cheerleaders were there, and like saying like, oh my god, she's so fat, I can't believe she came onto the stage while she looked like that. If you're not going to take your job seriously and be fit for the performance, then you just shouldn't perform at all. Like, your job is to be good looking. That did not look good. Blah, 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 blah. Like, this whole tirade, which I don't even know why this tirade was happening, because like, I don't remember any of us cheerleaders, like we were like, we were after school, we were making some like posters for, like, I don't know, whatever sport was going on at that time. We were like making posters for the lockers or decorating or doing something like that. And all of a sudden this like conversation just starts taking place. Like, to me, it felt like nobody said anyway. Like, we were just coloring, and all of a sudden this adult was like, hey, did you see that MTV performance of Britney Spears last night? And we were like, I hadn't, so I was like, no. And then like some of the girls were like, yeah. And then this person was like, yeah, well, she was freaking fat. Like, they didn't say freaking, but like, they were like, she was fat. Can you believe that? Like, don't ever let you girls get like that when you get older. Like, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, who says that? To teenagers, to a bunch of like teenage girls, first off, but like to anybody, really, now that I think about it. Like, could you imagine just minding your business at work, and another coworker comes up and they're like, hey, did you see this performance of this person? And you're like, oh yeah. They're like, yeah, weren't they fat? Like, wouldn't that be so weird? But people don't think about it when it comes to like kids. People just say anything. I feel like it's probably like the same way now as it was when I was a kid. And so that's really wild to me. And so that was a lot of, something like my adolescence, and how the world was during that time period is something that I continue to unpack with my body image to this day. And, I hope to keep, again, doing that work, because I don't want to be the type of grown up or adult or just person who, someday somebody's telling a story like this to YouTube about me. That would be like devastating. So I just, as this new year continues, I just want to make sure that I am being very watchful with my words and being watchful with the way I talk to myself. How I talk to myself and how I talk about others. Because I think, my kids are watching, other people's kids are watching. I don't want to give them the impression that there's some gold standard that you need to be at in order to be considered worthwhile or beautiful in this world, because there's not. It's just like your standard and how you feel about yourself. And it's so hard. Like, there's just, if ever you get a chance to watch this anime called Fruits Baskets, it's really great. There's like the original one, which the ending for the original one kind of makes me mad, because this whole thing, I could do a whole video on that too, whole rant. But the reboot, that was pretty good. But really, you should just read the manga books because they're the best. And in it, one of the characters explains, there's this character, she's been being bullied and she just stops talking. And the teacher kind of says, like, basically you're making life harder on yourself, because you should just like yourself and not care about what other people think. And you need to come back to school whether they like you or not, because school is important. And if they're mean to you and you just say nothing, then like you're part of the problem, kind of thing. It was really, really dumb. And she gave terrible advice, this teacher did. And this other character was like, how are they supposed to find something that they love about themselves if they've never heard anything? Like, nobody, doesn't it make it like a little bit easier if somebody tells you something that's really great about you, especially if you're like feeling down about yourself? And it's like, I want to be that person who, notices great things about people and like lets them know, because I want them to start hearing that instead of whatever negative voice that they might have. And then maybe one day, the majority of the time, they'll just hear their own positive voice and they won't need anything from anybody else, and they will be able to just like truly love yourself. But I think it's hard to just truly love yourself if you're not hearing anything nice ever about yourself. So that's one of my goals, and I try to do that in my day-to-day life, and my life with my kids, and my life with myself. But yeah, I think that those are pretty much everything that I'm hoping for in the new year. Hoping for a smooth move, continue my strength kind of goals, do some fun projects, work on crocheting and sewing a bit more, work on my YouTube videos a bit more, and do stuff like that, because that's pretty fun. And I just want to live like a fun life, like in between the moments of, like I said, like life is going to have suffering and you're always going to have that. There's no getting around that. But those in between moments can be super magical, and like the suffering can eventually be kind of magical too, once you get through it. Like, there's always, it's like that saying from I love that movie The Crow, and he says, can't rain all the time. And like, that's it. Like, it can't rain all the time. But sometimes the rain is necessary. Like, if you don't have the rain, you don't have the flowers. You need that to grow. So it's kind of one of those things where, like, why do we have to grow? I don't know. All I know is I'm stuck on this planet, and that seems to be the unwritten rule. You get some suffering, you grow. That's how it goes. Or you have some suffering and you don't grow, and you just stay suffering for forever. I choose to try to grow. But it seems like that's the catch-22 of this place so far, since I've been on here for 35 years that I've been on here. That's what I've learned so far. And then anything else? No, I think that that's pretty much it. And on the plus side, I finished the end of this row, so I'm going to stop here with my crocheting. And look how much, it probably doesn't feel like I did a whole lot, but I did. So this is just moving along quite nicely. And actually, I have to switch colors now, so I'm going to be switching into that, which is great because I only have like this much yarn left of this color. So I actually think I'm going to have to buy some more yarn. I don't think I'll have enough left over yarn to completely complete this. But isn't this going to be so delightful? I'm hoping to finish it before we go on the plane, because I thought like it would be nice little like snuggle blanket. Anyway, that's another goal. So I hope wherever you're at in life, I'm tangled. Ugh. I hope wherever you are in life and whatever you're focused on or you're working on or you're doing, good luck. Good luck to you. Good luck to, I hope 2026 is your year. And I don't know why it wouldn't be, 2026 should be every year. Every day should be everybody's day, So good luck out there, team. And I will try to be posting every Monday. So that's another kind of a goal sort of thing. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I hope you guys enjoy 2026. So have fun out there.